Great, thank you. Hi, I'm Karen Benardello and I write for ShockYa.com. Thank
Well,
you again for taking the time out today. I appreciate it.
thank you.
Okay, so I wanted to get started asking about how you became involved in directing the film and what you really liked about the script and what that process was like of becoming attached to direct.
I got the script and it just said written by Derek Kolstad. Bob is going to be the playing Hutch Mansell. I was reading the script and I was like, it just made total sense. There's things I wanted to change and upgrade and discuss with everybody, but it's something that completely drew my attention. I understood from the audience's perspective because when you first read a script, I've tried to shut down the director part and just see it as a film and see if I'm enjoying, if I'm excited by it, and I was as an audience member first and foremost. And I thought, okay, I want to try and get this movie, and then I'll make it good enough to please the audience side of my brain, because my audience side is very picky. Um, but it was a first we had a conversation with Bob where I just shared what I thought what the film was about, and I think it kind of caught him off guard because I said to me the special thing about this movie is not the action, which we're going to do great. It's not that hard to do great action. Um, what's important for me and what really stuck out is that it's a story about driven by inner conflict. It really is about Hutch, squashing his addiction to violence and action for such a long time that he's having a miserable life. He can't admit to himself what the problem is. And he's got a loving wife that is not cold to him or is only cold to him because of his own choices. And he is his own worst enemy. And there's something very special in the genre of, hitmen coming back to their previous lives. It's 100% of the time, it's about a guy who doesn't want anything to do with the past and they kill his dog or they steal his daughter and fine, I got to go back to my life of violence. But this Bob's character Hutch, he wants to go back. He's looking for any excuse, and that excuse happens with the two robbers in the beginning. So it's a very, I don't want to say it's a character study, but it's got elements of that which make it much more grounded and much more, I believe, elevated. And if you put the smartness of it together with the action of it, then you have something kind of special if you do it correctly. And I believe we did it pretty correctly.
And speaking of Bob and the rest of the cast, I also wanted to ask about the overall casting, especially for the supporting actors, and what that process was like of finding everyone around Bob and his character, and what that experience was like of maybe casting the rest of the actors.
It was a lot of people want to work with Bob, so that makes casting quite a little bit easier. We were lucky to have had that trump card. But what we had, Lloyd. When we thought of Lloyd, it became just an idea that we couldn't get rid of. We just had to have him. It just made total sense that for an action movie to have. I wanted we were going to surprise people with Bob. Let's go further and surprise people with another, and maybe octogenarian actor is going to carry a bunch of shotguns and make quips, and that's going to be exciting. And Lloyd hasn't done that before, so I thought, look, it's another bonus for the freshness feeling of it. We have Bob doing what he hasn't done before. You have Chris Lloyd doing what he hasn't done before, and we put Riza as his half brother, and that works magically. And it becomes this. It just all made sense. It just all made sense in how it's no point chasing originality just for originality's sake, but there was something that totally clicked with the cast I was putting up. I love cast the board you put up in the back of the office where we start putting pictures up, and just as soon as I had those three, I was like, boom, let's get the real authentic questions in there, and that's it. And this is a movie I really want to watch.
And once the other actors signed on as well, what was the experience like of really getting to work with them and building their characters together as well overall?
With Bob, we had a year and a half before the shoot to talk about it. Once I signed on, so we knew exactly what we were doing, and we knew the tone of the film and the tone of the character, and that's why it made every time we were even stuck for half a second, it really was for half a second because we knew what the point was of each scene and each line. That made things really, really much easier in production. With Christopher Lloyd, I had a couple of brief conversations on the phone before he flew out. Then we sat down when he was there in Winnipeg, and we just went through the overall feeling. And it's Christopher Lloyd. He has more experience shooting than I've been alive in this planet. So it's very straightforward with how quickly the masters pick up on what they need to do, and are willing to come up with ideas to help the overall feeling. Rizzo arrived, and Rizzo just said, "I'm here to serve the movie. What do you want me to do?" Which is, it's always a wonderful thing to hear as a director. I think the toughest thing was getting the Russians in the movie because the guilds have very strict rules. We had to explain why we need to get these Russian actors in and why they're important. And thank God the producers, put in the work and made that happen. Because I wanted to make sure if we're doing Russians as the bad guys, let's make sure they're authentic and we're not just poking fun of, as is the typical Hollywood way. So we were trying to be respectful while killing them, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And also, speaking of getting to film in Winnipeg, and I wanted to ask also about that experience and really finding the locations and what that process was like of maybe setting everything up and deciding how you wanted each location to look as well.
I knew the look of the film before I arrived in Winnipeg. I had the storyboards, and then I also had a fantastic team of, Roger Fires, production designer, and Pavel Podrzalski, the DP. We had references in mind. We watched quite a few movies together as we were prepping. We went out to location scout every evening at the end of the day because a lot of movie takes place at night, so we had to really look at the right stuff, but the right time of the day. But it was, I think overall the crew in Winnipeg was fantastic. And also they're Canadian, so they were really nice while actually really knowing how to do their job, which made my job much easier. And I have to say, in terms of experience, this has been the most pleasant experience of my career. It just we all we came to work every day. We knew what we were doing. We loved the film, and we loved how special it could be if we do it correctly. So we're all kind of just rowing this boat towards the goal. And look, it's a lot of people involved. It's a huge team effort to make any film, but it's rare when you go into a project, and I have to say, this is going to sound ridiculous, but believe me, it's completely 4 months in Canada. There was, I did not witness a single conflict. There was not a single shouting match. People were just respectfully working together. That's how it should be done. I came back home to Russia and I'm like, guys, there's a couple of things we should change in how we do around here. It's, Canadian. Yeah. It was completely lovely.
And also, speaking of working with your DP as well, I also wanted to ask about that experience and working together and deciding how you wanted to visually shoot the movie as well.
We knew that we wanted to be fairly gritty without trying too hard, not to have it be all fully dirty and unpleasant to watch. Pavel shot a bunch of different camera tests in LA. He flew out. He came back to Winnipeg. We printed all the takes and all the cameras. And the wonderful thing is I had an understanding of what we should be using. And then Pavel did the test and we sat down with a blind test in the theater and we just kind of picked which options we liked. And it turned out it's a very different camera than what I usually use, different lenses. Interesting. Okay. And then I had the storyboards before I flew out. I had 2,000 shots on the wall in the office. Anybody will walk in, I can just walk you through the entire film. It's right there. So it was, I knew I wanted to make it very traditional, not moving the camera just for the sake of moving the camera. I wanted to avoid any and all shaky cams. I wanted the action to be clear because the wonderful thing with Bob training for a year and a half, you don't need to cut every half a second to sell a punch. He can do it properly. And fantastic stunt team that allowed us to, really have planned out shots that were as meticulous as I would want them. And that's again, a fairly rare opportunity, but we knew what we were going for and we just went for it.
And then also I wanted to ask about the film's release and what that experience was like as well, and really teaming up with Universal to distribute the movie overall as well.
Well, we'll know how the release goes when it comes out. I love the fact that Universal loved the movie enough to have a theatrical release in this day and age where a lot of, films, good films that are going straight to streaming. So I'm incredibly excited to, have trailers and people watching it all over the world and people looking to go see it in the cinemas all over the world. It's, it could have been much more different considering the COVID era. But I think we're very lucky. I think the film is very lucky to have the support that we do have.
Okay, thank you very much for taking the time out today. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Karen.
You're welcome. Thanks again.